So here's the clap test. This is the acoustic test of this room before any kind of treatment. I literally can count to 5 before it goes silent. That's outrageous. Don't work in a room like this.
Hey everyone, this is Oscar from Underdog and it's time to talk about the new studio. You'll probably have noticed that in my last few videos, the studio has changed quite a lot. There's no more shrimps on the walls and certain things have changed. So let me tell you a little bit the story of the old studio. About 2 years ago, there was a problem with my old apartment, and so I moved into this place. And what this place is a cement cube 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters, as you can see a little bit on this diagram. I've got windows on one side, I've got a door on the other side, and beyond that, just surface to surface, ultra reverberant cement.
I literally can count to 5 before it goes silent.
And not only was this to become the workspace where I did all my audio work and my YouTube work, it was also my bedroom. So I had a couch bed that I would have to collapse and uncollapse every single time I wanted to either do some work or go to bed. And I maintained that madness for about 2 years while I was trying to get the Underdog Music School project to work. To help deal with some of the absolute worst audio problems in that room,
Laura from Lian's studio helped me build these shrimp bass traps that you've seen in previous videos.
But these just turned a terrible room into a slightly less terrible room, but still a pretty terrible room. So a few months ago I decided it was time to pull the trigger. It was time to upgrade, time to improve. I finally got another room and moved my bed into that other room, and so now this space was going to be just studio space, and I could redesign it from the ground up to be a studio. So I contacted a local Brussels company called VDB Acoustics, and what they did is they came in and they gave me some advice, okay? They said, this is the layout of the old room. You can see my desk right there up against the window. My speakers were not symmetrical with the two walls, and there was barely any acoustic treatment. They told me to put my desk up against the other wall, make sure that the speakers are equal distance from the far walls on either side, make sure that my listening position isn't too deep into the room to sit in the center of the room. So I need to have a much smaller desk than maybe you would want in a situation like this. And then the final thing, and maybe the main thing, is to cover every single freaking surface in this room with absorbent panels. So this is where we'd put the absorbent panels, but not only on those walls, also on the ceiling and on the ceiling corners. We'll take a closer look at the panels in a moment, but first I want to talk a little bit about aesthetics. I want to talk about a little bit of design. And Underdog would not be Underdog if it didn't have a little bit of a hoekje af, as we say in Dutch, or a little bit of madness embedded inside of it. So when designing the studio, the one thing that I did know was that this is going to be the color of the panels. I had been given a lot of different color options, and so this was the one that I went for. Not too dark, not too bright, kind of restful, because it is going to cover 80% of the surfaces. And with that decision locked in, I asked Laura to come up with some kind of proposal for a background color for the walls. She was the perfect person to bring a little bit of soul and spark into this room as well. We brainstormed a few designs together and finally settled on this horizontal stripes pattern that would be poking out its head just ever so subtly in the spaces in between the panels. And finally, to top it all off, Laura created this perfect mural over here, which represents the Underdog dot logo, as you can imagine, going over there with some wavy lines.
When I clap my hands, listen, count how long it takes to go to silence after that, okay? 5, 6, 7 seconds of reverb tail. Now imagine that the sound is coming out of your speakers and trying to get into your ear, but the room like this is contributing all these echoes to the sound. That's what acoustic isolation is for, okay? That's why tomorrow, some people are going to come in here, you can barely hear what I'm saying. I can barely hear what I'm saying thanks to this. Some people are going to come in here and cover, let's say, 80% of the walls and all the corners with just pure acoustic absorbing material. Alright, so the guys from the acoustic company have just left, and they've left me in this room which is now fully treated. So let me show you. There's the door. In each corner there are massive floor to ceiling bass traps, and the ceiling is done, and all the top corners are also done. It's not the best shot this, but it's okay. So what I want to do right now is I want to show you, when I stand across the other side of the room, what happens when I clap my hands. You can already probably hear in the inbuilt microphone here that we're going to have a very different experience than last time. So let me go stand over here. Now that's a very strange experience. It feels almost like I'm underwater or something, or like when you go in an airplane above a certain altitude and your ears kind of pop. My ears have a tough time reinterpreting this space, and I kind of feel like almost like I'm in low gravity or something. It's a very strange experience. Because everything else is isolated, I feel like I can actively feel or hear the resonance of these windows. There is a crazy resonance from that window. It has a lot of flutter. Flutter is, I guess, the word for this, no? And this is the room with nothing in it yet. When we put more objects in the room, of course, they're also going to make the air, the way the air moves in this room, a little bit more irregular, and you're going to get even less of these surface-to-surface buildups.
And so then to top that all off, I also upgraded my monitors. I used to have some Adam A7Xs with a subwoofer, and I got these Adam Audio S3Vs, which are three-way drivers. So the work to reproduce the sound is split into 3 ways, which means that each woofer has to work a little bit less, which reduces the chance of distortion in those woofers substantially. There's actually one big misconception that I think we should clarify and make explicit straight up front. A misconception that I had. I used to think that it was mostly the fact that the physics of your room changed the EQ curve of what you heard, so that it acted almost like an equalizer over the sound that comes into your ears. This is also the kind of problem that a software like SonarWorks tries to address by applying a complementary EQ curve to flatten what you hear. But this ignores one enormous other dimension, which I think you'll understand from the videos that I just showed you, which is decay over time. How long does it take for a sound to go down to 0 in your room? If your room is acting like a very wet reverb plugin over all of your sounds, you can't really judge if the tails of your sound are too long, too short, too blurry, not crisp enough. These kind of things are not clear because everything kind of ends up sounding the same. And your ears get used to it. They think that this reverb reality is normal reality. I used to think that my studio space as it previously was not too reverberant. But now when I sit in my new room and I listen to my videos, I think, holy moly, what a reverberant room. So that's a huge learning. And the tool that people use, by the way, to measure this is something called a waterfall plot. I'm not a big expert on this, but there is a software called the Room EQ Wizard, where you can use a little measurement microphone like this, and it measures the audio as it comes out of the speakers, and it can give you a kind of an EQ curve similar to SonarWorks. But what it will also do is it will show you the time decay of all the different frequencies and show you where the buildup of time is. And the only way to reduce the time factor like this is porous absorbers, so very big broadband absorbers treatment, kind of like in this room. And so there you have it. That's a little video about the build of this new studio. This was the first time for me creating a studio of this caliber, and so I'm learning a lot along the way. There are a lot of things that I'm kind of learning by trial and error still. If there's any aspect of the studio that you'd like me to go deeper on, leave a comment below. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon or by buying one of the Underdog courses. Like the video and subscribe to show me some love. And until next time, stay producing, be good to one another, and take care. Bye bye.